Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, to ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and today we're going to be talking about all the things that I'm planning to leave behind as this new year is now here. So all the habits that I'm just completely done with that don't serve me in my art business and that I'm just leaving behind in 2024. They don't exist anymore. They're not here. Poof, they're just like that. And it's funny. So if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you can watch a video, it's a really dreary day outside, and my only source of light in here is just this one little light. So everything is kind of dark, but we're going with it anyway, because this is actually a re-record, because I went to go record this episode last week. I was way ahead and on schedule, and we went to go edit it, and there was no sound. And I was like, oh, okay. And what I probably did was I grabbed the microphone. I accidentally pressed mute, didn't realize it, which has happened to me once before. And that's also something I'm going to leave, but like, I'm just going to pretend that didn't happen. Now that hard lesson learned, and like, I will not anymore make that mistake. That is a mistake that I am leaving into last year. But here we go. I have a whole list of things, but this was inspired by just recently, the first time I recorded this, just recently, I decided to go through all of my paint shirts and my paint, just clothing in my closet. And I don't know about you, but the evolution of my painting attire has come pretty far, but it tends to go backwards every once in a while. So every year for Christmas now, my mother and my mother-in-law, they get me these just really basic Amazon shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve, to paint in, because they see my clothes that I wear every day when I go mural, and they all have paint on them. And just as the year goes on, they get more and more paint. So both of them, and they don't know that each other does this. Both of them at the end of the year, they're like, here you go, wear this instead. I'm like, okay, that's a great nudge to maybe look a little bit better in your videos that I'm watching on Snapchat and on Instagram. But it is a far cry nowadays from what my style used to be. So I thought that when you painted, you would just wear some old clothing. Like, I would wear my old basketball shirts, and I would wear leggings. I've talked about this. I would wear leggings to jobs, and I don't do that anymore because that's so unprofessional. But I would just wear the lowest of the low in my closet to go paint. And then I made it a profession, and I carried that into it for longer than I would like to admit. Like, I was painting for major companies wearing my high school basketball just torn up shirt with paint all over it, because I just didn't realize, oh, I need to look a little bit more professional when I'm doing this profession. It took me a while to really get my head from, oh, this is just a fun hobby that I don't take serious, or just, I didn't think I needed a professional look at all. And I don't think you necessarily, need to be dressed to the nines or anything close to that. But I really think it helps to show up in something that's not baggy or that just looks decent. And I was looking at my closet, and I have accumulated so many shirts that I don't necessarily want anymore, but I don't want to throw away. So I just, oh, that's a paint shirt. And so I'll wear it every once. Or like, if somebody gives me a free t-shirt for their business, I'll just wear it painting sometimes. And I'm like, no. Like, I go back to that old habit of just wearing whatever. And so this year, again, I did this last year too, where I bought some, and I asked for Christmas some t-shirts and just some things that fit a little bit better and just that weren't covered in paint. And just a couple of weeks ago, I went through and threw out a bunch of the old stuff to where I now have I still have probably 20 shirts to paint in, maybe 25, but that's whittled down from like 50. And what was also happening in my closet was there were so many shirts in this pile that I would go through and I would organize it and it would just turn into a big messy pile. And I would just every once in a while I'd have to go and just resort it. And I'm like, you know what? If there's not many shirts, I'm not going to have to organize this stuff because I don't wear half this stuff. So I went through and just threw away so many things in my closet and it feels so great. It's like I get really into this new year, new habits, new style, new me kind of a thing. It's something about just the new year. But I'm just so excited about this. So I wrote a list of things that I also want to leave behind. So the messy and I wouldn't say it's hoarding, but kind of. Like those are the habits that are no longer serving me and that actually make me feel really good to shed. Another thing is just getting very real with myself about this year and what I really want to do. Last year, just reflecting on it, I sat down and I was like, okay, what do I want to do? What just seems like the most fun thing? And I was like, I'm a painter. I would love to paint some of my own fun canvas creations with my things from my imagination. And I had that intention the majority of the year. And I created maybe, I can think of 3 canvases, 4 maybe, just not very many that really stretched my imagination. I had so many plans and so many ideas, and I just couldn't do it. And so this year going forward, I'm like, okay, I know that I have all of these things that I want to do, but I'm just going to get very real about the things that I'm going to do, the motivation that I actually have to do the things that I really want, not the things that I think I want to do. Cause it sounded really good, right? I was going to have these really amazing canvases because it's really fun to sit down and paint, or so I thought. I just can't make myself do it. So I just sat down and thought, what can I make myself do truly? What is a goal that I can make this year, which is not to make 30 canvas paintings like I was hoping to last year, which did not happen. What is something that I really love to do that I also have the motivation for that I will succeed at? And that is murals, because I have a motivation for it now. I'm applying to a bunch of art calls. That's a big major strategy in my revenue goal for this year, is applying to art calls. And as I'm applying to them, they want to see a style of painting that I want to do. And like basically, like I'm applying for an art call. They want to see the stuff that I would probably paint for them. And a lot of my really good stuff is for other companies or for somebody else. And I'm writing these things and I'm like, okay, like here's an example, but this is kind of what I want to do. It's a little bit like this, but it's also like that. Like I'm having to explain what art style that I can do for this public art call. And I just want to be able to show it. And so instead of having a goal of painting a bunch of canvases in my style and things that I want to paint, I've switched that. And to now I'm pitching to people to paint on walls, to give examples of just really fun, imaginative, big animals with fun colors and just done in a really distinctive way, the way that I want to paint. So that's my new goal, because I have some motivation backing it. And that's why I think it's going to happen. Because if I don't have a goal to go for or a reason to do something, then it doesn't really happen. And I think that's why, when I have a commission and somebody's paying me to do it, I'll do it. Or a mural that somebody's paying me to show up for, that's why I do it. But when it comes to painting my own stuff, there's no motivation behind there other than, yeah, that seems fun. And that's just not enough. So I'm going and pitching to businesses around town, and some of them I'm saying pay for supplies, some of them, but what I really want is for them to have almost no say. And I want to paint this big raccoon, like really everywhere in my town, or other kinds of animals, or I want to paint a really big cow on a barn. I did a breathwork ceremony. If you've ever done that, that was the first time I had ever done that. And it's where you breathe a lot and you fill your body full of air. And And then you like hold your breath so you get kind of a dizzy feeling or whatever. And what was coming up for me, I was like, I really want to paint a cow on a barn. Like, and then I was like, wait, why am I thinking of this? This is so odd. This is like, where is this coming? I was like, okay, well, if this is what comes to me when I'm just alone with my thoughts for an hour breathing, then let's do it. So I wrote that on my goal list this year. I'm going to paint a really big cow with like a flower crown or something in a really cool way, really big on the side of a barn. And I have a bunch of different goals like that, but those are my really fun goals for this year. So I think it's really fun to tie fun goals with productivity goals because then it actually gets done. Another thing I'm leaving behind is having a giant to-do list and never tackling the thing that I'm always saying, oh, I should do that. Yeah, I need to do that because over the Christmas break, I made my pitch deck really, really well to pitch to businesses around town. And I made a public art call template. I've talked about that, but I finally have started to apply to these public art calls and it's kind of fun. Now that I'm past the hard part and I've done now probably 7 of them to where I have so many letters of interest now that I know several different ways that I can do it. And it's kind of plug and play. And so now it's hit the fun part. And I'm like, oh, this is why I had this on my to-do list for so long. Why didn't I do this sooner? And I'm like, okay, if there's something big like this, like applying to public art calls that I have been on my to-do list forever, I'm just going to freaking do it. I've also cleaned out my studio. I have no more half finished paintings, which feels really, really good. Most of them got cleaned out last year's 31-day challenge. And I just going into the year without having anything half done. And I think that's part of what goes on my, like having a to-do list. It's like, okay, I've made the to-do list and I've dabbled in it a little bit, but I haven't really like done the thing. Like when you start a canvas and you have a really good idea and you've done part of it or sketched it out, but you haven't completed it. Like that non-completion part really weighs on me. And that's another reason that I just don't like a lot of things sitting around half done. I just need to finish it so that I can fully focus on either completing it or taking it to the next level or just having that painting done and selling it or whatever, but not having the half to-do list. I am so done with the half to-do list thing. One of the ways I am taking off the to-do list is, for instance, I am batching a lot of my coloring book pages this year. So I'm completing a coloring book page a month for our local newspaper, which I am just so psyched to have that opportunity to do that. Because I was thinking about taking out an ad in the local newspaper of something about my art or something about the Roger the Raccoon project that I'm currently doing, which is painting a bunch of raccoons around town because Rogersville was once known as the raccoon capital of the world. And I was like, man, I just want more people to know about it. And this brand new, like they just started this newspaper. And I was like, this is a great way to literally have it on everybody's front doorstep, the Roger the Raccoon thing and my art and all the things. And so they asked me to create a coloring book page where I can also put my website and everything. And I was like, this is perfect. Like, obviously I'm not getting paid to do it, but it is prime advertising. And it's like a half page on the full thing. It's not just like a little ad in the corner. It's like a full half page. Yeah. But knowing that I'm going to do one every month, come the last week of the month or even the last half of the month, I know that I'm not going to have it done in the first two weeks and send it to her. I know that I am going to prioritize everything else, knowing that I don't have to have that coloring book page in until a few days before printing. I will know that, and it will weigh on me every month for about a week. That last week of like leading up to that deadline of having that coloring book page done, I know it will be like, oh, I need to do this. When can I do this? And like, heaven forbid, I'm on a project somewhere and I forget or my son gets sick or like something happens to where it makes me flustered and I have already more things on it. So what I am doing is I am batching. I am making all of them now in the first couple weeks of the year. And that way I'm just going to send them all to her and we are going to be good for a whole year. And I cannot tell you how much weight that lifts off my shoulders, just knowing that I'm going to get advertising in our local newspaper every single month and my job is going to be done. I'm not going to have something that I need to do. Oh, I've done a couple of them as of the recording right now. I'm probably 5 months in, but it's almost done. And I'm just going to even more breathe a breath of fresh air once that is completely done. And it's so fun to just do them all at once, because then before I send them to her, I can make sure they can all match or make sure they're all slightly different in a way. And it's just like, I can look at them all clearly with one, thought process and see what I need to change, what I can make better, making sure one isn't super simple and one is super complicated, and then just send it. Another thing that I'm going to try to leave behind, and this might come as a shock to you, but especially since the first episode of the year, pretty much, was that I shared that I want to make $300,000 this year and working less than 30 hours. And I posted that to Instagram, on my story, on a reel, on Facebook. And the place that I had the most resistance just even posting that podcast episode was Facebook, because I know that Instagram is a lot of people that don't really personally know me, but Facebook has all my family and my neighbors and everybody that's close to me. And it's not necessarily my big artist following there as Instagram. And so what was going on in my head was, I almost told my virtual assistant, she actually posted it to Facebook for me, and she posted it to everywhere. And so I almost told her, I was about to say, don't post this one to Facebook. And then I was like, let me unpack this in my mind. Why not? What's the worst it could do? And then I forgot about it, luckily. So I didn't have too much of a chance to overthink it. But she posted it, and it got more likes than most of my podcast posts on there. Nobody commented on it, anything bad. I actually got a message from she was a painting professor at the college that I went to. And she saw it and she said, "You go, girl, you work so hard," something just a really inspiring message from somebody that I did not expect to get that from. She's much, much older. But in my head, I was like, people are going to think that this is unattainable. They're going to think that I'm bragging. They're going to think that, I don't know, especially because this is just such a big, big goal for me. It's like, maybe people are going to check in, like, hey, did you make it? And if I don't, then I'm going to have to tell them no. It's just, there's so many things that, especially the bragging part, because I've had people in my life in the past, friends who weren't really good friends, and tell me that the things I was posting were bragging. And it my travels, my just random stuff that I would post. And they were like, you're just bragging about your life now. I left them behind. And I was like, oh, I'd never thought of it like that. I was just, everybody brags on Facebook. That's just what people do. They literally show the highlight reel of their life. And then I was getting called out for it and told I was stuck up because I was achieving too much. And that's just what it was. And that stuck with me way, way longer than it should have. And it still does, because the last thing I want people to do is just think that I mean, it kind of is, though. If we're being real, it kind of is look at me, look how good I'm doing, But the reason I posted it is because I follow some people online who have goals and who have already achieved goals way bigger than that. And I love seeing that, especially from other women, even people who aren't artists. Actually, I feel like it's very rare, extremely rare, that I see artists posting about making that kind of amount. I could name maybe one person one artist that has ever said that they're making over 300,000 in the year, or publicly made a post about it. But maybe I don't follow enough artists. So I'm trying to leave that mentality behind. And it's not as easy as just saying, I'm going to be confident from now on about the money that I make and how my goals and everything. but this is a start. Posting things like this, and I'm not asking for people to congratulate me and say great things. It's just, this is what's real. This is my real life, and I'm going to share it. And so when I think I use that kind of mental checklist is like, are you trying to be somebody you're not? Like, no. Like, are you just sharing real life? Yes. And then it's okay to post it. Another thing that I am leaving far, far behind, because I just got a kick in the butt reminder about what happens when I don't do this, is, so this past year, started off last year, my energy was super low. And I went and got a food sensitivity test and figured out all the foods, which is gluten and dairy mostly, and peanuts, that just like mess up my system, make me super bloated and tired and all the things. And when I really leave all of that out, I feel amazing. And this past Christmas, I woke up and we went over to my in-laws for Christmas Day, and they had a spread of things that was completely all gluten and dairy. And I was like, it even had peanuts. And I was like, whatever, F it. Like, let's do it. And I've really, really cut back on alcohol, like almost completely in the past several months. And they also had mimosas on Christmas Day. And I was like, heck with it. It's Christmas. Let's do it. And about 3 hours later, I was asleep on the couch because I had to take a nap. and I was irritable leading up to that. And it was just a hard kick in the face of like, oh, this is why I follow such a strict gluten and dairy free diet, and I don't drink. It was probably the mimosa that kicked me the most, but it wasn't even that much. I didn't even feel drunk, but I was just completely dead. And I was like, okay, that was fun to do that for a holiday, and I might do it at a holiday in the future or for a birthday or something. But in general, I'm trying to be really strict on this, not to look great, but just to feel great, because that affects my life and business so much. It affects it to where when I've worked all day and my son comes home at about 5:00, that I still have the energy to play with him. It affects to where if I take my supplements and I follow the things, it's just, I have the energy, and then I'm able to just show up better here and do podcasts genuinely with energy and do all the other things without completely crashing at night. Although I usually do. I sleep really, really hard. Another thing, this past year has been really weird, just with social things. Like, I've just had more arguments with people than I have wanted this past year with just like my social circle. It makes me extremely appreciative that my home life with my husband and my toddler is really, really good. But socially with friends outside of it, it's been the weirdest year I've had in a very long time. And so for this year, you can't really, learn from it as much as I can, but I have started listening to audiobooks. Like, just recently I listened to, it was The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And it's basically, it talks about, if people are talking about you, let them, if your family doesn't agree with you, let them. But it's really good. It's not just a book about not caring. It's just a book about relationships, really, all relationships, with your spouse, with your friends, with your in-laws, it's with your kids. Like, it's your relationships and how to best handle it without letting it affect you so much. And I recommended this book to so many people, so I'm going to recommend it here too. It's called Let Them by Mel Robbins. And it was just such a great read. And I'm going into this year with that book in mind, with my relationships. And I'm hoping to, I have some really, really good friends, but I'm hoping to expand my circle of friends to include, I'm actually super specific about what I want. It's either people who are in the same phase of life as me. I would love to get some more local mom friends, specifically mom friends with toddlers. I am on a mission of this, and I would like more boss babe friends. I would love ones that are both, that have toddlers and are just a complete boss babe, but those are, I find, a lot harder to find. So, but, and that's just because it's stuff like that affected me so much this past year. And I'm so done with it. That is a 2024 era. This year is just hopefully going to be filled with peace and profits and friendship and just peace. I'm going to say that again. I think my word for this year, and I usually don't say words, and I actually didn't plan on this, but I think my word this year is just peace. And I always go back to this saying that I heard a really long time ago. It's like, the person or the people or the thing or whatever that gives you the most peace should get the most time. And I'm just very much taking this to heart right now, because when I am peaceful, I am profitable, which makes me, I was thinking of a P word, which makes me pretty darn happy. So yeah, that's what I'm going in with this year. And I hope that this year is peaceful for you too, and extremely profitable and all of the things. So yeah, okay. That's all I have for you this week. I am about to get on a plane to Costa Rica. So I will tell you all about that when I get back from our Mural meetup. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Artist Academy podcast. I so appreciate you tuning in every week, and I would also appreciate if you could do me a very small favor and possibly share this episode either on social media. You can tag me, or even just write me a note in my DMs saying what you liked about the podcast, what you want to see more of, anything. I love getting any and every feedback, especially in the form of a review, 5 stars only. That's all we accept on Apple or Spotify. And just any kind of positive feedback whatsoever. It really makes everything worth it. Me sitting down to create this absolutely free podcast full of art and business content. And I also wanted to throw this out there that if you are not where you want to be currently in your art business, if you're stuck at a boring job that just sucks the creativity out of you, and you don't have time to paint, and you're wanting to go full time with some kind of way of painting or murals or something, anything other than where you're at, trust me, I know the feeling, and I know how much it can affect the rest of your life, and I know what's on the other side of it. There's a lot of hard work and there's a lot of tips and tricks in the middle, but that's why I created the Artist Academy membership. It's only $37 a month, and it takes artists from aspiring or beginner to full-time and up to 6 figures. I've helped more artists than I can count or think of at the moment quit their jobs and go full-time into painting, and I can help you too. It's such a crazy, confusing, tough time, especially in that first year. That's why I specialize in helping artists within that first year of business, because that's the hardest part, taking the first step, figuring out how to get those first couple clients, and then we work from there. I've helped multiple artists reach even the 6-figure mark, and I can help you too. If you're ready to make 2025 the year that you finally go full-time into the creative industry and make good money with your art, and I want to invite you into the Artist Academy membership to view my over 100 plus art and business tutorials. There's everything from how to paint large scale to how to make a marketing plan for this year. And every single month I update it with new content of what's working right now, what's working on social media, what are the things that I'm doing, specific things with templates, with email scripts, with all the things that you need, that you just go right over the headache of it all, and I just give it to you, and you make it your own, and you grow your own unique art business the way you want to. Inside the membership, I open up my business and show you what I'm pricing per job, how the job went, what I learned from it, how I got that customer, and how I'm repeating that over and over again to build a 6-figure plus consistent art business for the last 10 years. I think I've been doing this for about 10 years and teaching for almost 6 years. Crazy. So I've heard it all. I've heard all of the excuses, all the hurdles, and I can help you through them. They say a mentor can see your future a lot more clearly than you can. That's why you hire one, because when you're going through the tough times and thinking that you can't do it, I'm here and I know you can, and I can help you get around that hurdle and reach to the next hurdle and then the next one. And then, yeah, so $37 a month. Go to artistacademy.co to join. There are no minimums. Cancellation is super easy. Stay as long as you want, gather as much as you want, and grow your business as much as you want this year. Go to artistacademy.co to join the membership.